All right, this week's guest on Tennis Channel Inside In is a 27-year-old who recently had her 10th anniversary of turning professional. Over a decade. Time really does fly there. In 2017, she won the ASB Classic in Auckland and reached a career high of number 27 in the world that same year. But more importantly, in 2012, Cleveland Magazine named her one of the most interesting people. Welcome to Tennis Channel Inside In, Lauren Davis.
Thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
I had to bring up that 2012 Cleveland Magazine Inside In. No, I'm also from Cleveland as well. But it was Joe Hayden, Allie LaForce, a few others, and Lauren Davis.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. Yeah, it's such an honor to be recognized as that in the city of Cleveland. Cleveland is obviously my favorite city. It's my hometown. And yeah, it's really exciting.
Well, it's interesting for me too, because I'm from there, as I mentioned. And I remember being, I would say, about early into my college years. I'm a little older than you, but I remember being away at school and hearing a lot of buzz in the area that this little 15-year-old girl, Mitch Michals, was on a tear, going undefeated as the Division II state champion in tennis. And here I am talking to her now years later. That decision to play high school tennis, which a lot of players might not have decided to do. You were late to the sport, I think 9 when you started playing, but what was that journey like? And then ultimately just a Cinderella year by all accounts, where you go to Columbus and only drop 4 games en route to an undefeated season.
Oh, I only dropped 4 games in states?
In states, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Go little Lauren.
Yeah.
But yeah, high school tennis for me, I played freshman year. It was a good decision because it was the team camaraderie and being a part of a team that was different for me. And it was so much fun. Like, I remember playing high school matches at Gilmore, and like all my friends would come out and just like support me. And it was really fun to be a part of, to have my school and the city of Cleveland backing me like that. But yeah, the next year I ended up moving to Florida and said bye to Cleveland, as sad as that was, but I don't regret it for anything.
I did speak a little abruptly. It was 5 games in 4 matches. So just don't want to
5
take
games
in 4 matches in the state. So you did
okay,
lose
that's still
that's
okay.
acceptable, I guess. But so that decision, I mean, I mentioned you played at age 9, and I think it was, if I have this right, a friend of your mom's who kind of pushed you in that direction. You were a competitive kid. Suddenly you become successful on an all another level. You decide to go to Florida, and we always hear these stories about the Everett Academy. I talked to Jen Brady a couple months ago, and she mentioned you, Madison Keys, Sloane Stevens. How competitive was that down there? And if you could pull back the curtain, what was it like to be in a tennis training ground where suddenly it's the main focus?
Yeah, being at Everett was so much fun. I lived in the dorms, had like 3 roommates, and so even though it was so tennis focused, like there was still so much of a balance for me because I was surrounded by all my friends, and I still went to like prom, so with the school, with someone from the school across the street. So that was a lot of fun. But yeah, being a part of that community and that environment was good because we each challenged each other and pushed each other. We were all around the same level. And so that's something that I didn't have in Cleveland, which was really important and just really important for the development of my career. And that played a huge part in my decision to turn pro.
It's pretty crazy, not just how competitive it was, but the fact that most of you have stayed friends, and a lot of you have made on a level of making a living as a touring professional. I don't think that that's common, even at a place like the Everett Academy. Your generation, just for whatever reason, was able to keep it going and most of all be successful.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Yeah, Jen Brady obviously went to college, and so that right there is absolutely incredible that she's top 20 now. She shot up super fast and has stayed the same person through it all, and she's just a really cool person. But yeah, Tracy Capper was there as well, Annie Mulholland, and I think they ended up going to college and then not turning pro after, but they were really good juniors. And yeah, it was a super fun environment to be a part of, and I still keep in touch with all of them.
When did you make that decision that pro was the option? Because I don't think, in your case, based on what I've read, that it was always the plan, like, I'm going to go pro. You had a super successful junior career, but when did you start to make that decision and ultimately think this is the better path for me?
Yeah, so when I was 17, so I guess about a year and a half after I moved to Florida, I went on this tear in the juniors and some challengers and won like 30 something matches in a row, and Orange Bowl and Eddie Herr and the Australian Open wildcard. And so I just, I came away from those experiences, like just with the conviction and the desire, like thinking to myself, this is really what I want to do with my life, with my career. And yeah, I'd always been planning on going to college. I guess I didn't think too far ahead, but yeah, after I won Orange Bowl, I made the decision, and that was when I was 17. So
I think the quote you have is, it was like going to the adult world. A lot of ways, it's like going to college by yourself. You suddenly are thrust in this environment where you don't know anybody, with more pressure on, because now you're a professional and you have to make a living. How tough was that, more mentally maybe than the professional side of things?
it was really difficult. I would say I really struggled first, probably 4 years of after having turned pro, with like making friends, because it was difficult, because like you're competing against these girls and this is our livelihood and stuff. And so it was a very different vibe that I got from being on tour, being young and kind of a newbie. But yeah, I luckily at the time had a coach who I was close to, and I still think that's incredibly important to have like a coach you're close to, but also like a good friend. And so yeah, I also struggled with losing so much all the time, because in juniors I won a lot more than I did in the beginning of my pro career. So it was definitely a learning experience of like learning how to manage the highs and the lows and not get so discouraged. And that took me quite a few years.
That's so true though, because it happens in tennis more than any other sport. You get all these players, high level juniors like yourself, college All-Americans, national champions, and then only one person can win a tournament at each event. So you have to get used to losing, and at first being not okay with, but just understanding that there's a process and it's a long road. And in your case, managing that, and I know you talk about mental fitness and whatnot, and I actually remember you playing at Charleston this past 2 weeks ago, where it seemed like there was a lot of meditation going on in between points, in between sets. The match, you took a rough first set, but it was a steady breathing, and then all of a sudden you turn it around. So I can tell watching you that mental fitness and mental health is important out there.
It definitely is. Yeah, I guess what you mean by like meditating, I guess
Close your eyes and change over.
Yes, I try and get like present, and because there's so many different emotions going through your body and like so many different thoughts, and then like you have the outside environment to pay attention to. So like I try and like quiet my mind, and just like block out distractions. And yeah, because it's definitely pretty stressful out there, so you got to have something to do on the on the changeovers. But yeah, I was having a little bit of trouble during that match. Like I changed my game plan in the second set, and you just kind of got to get creative out there, and change your game plan if need be, and stay persistent and tenacious. And that's something that's been really, really powerful for me in my game.
Well, just so you know, I mean, I don't think we need to tell you this, but at Tennis Channel, the cameras are always rolling. So we'll catch if your eyes are shut.
Uh-oh.
Just, I don't have to tell you. I'm going to get to more of the current events and your career in a second, but you mentioned your style of play, and, making up for the lack of, height and certain physical attributes. You've had this reputation of being tenacious, of being a fighter, of being that aggressive player that takes away time and space. Was that always your game, or was that something that you adapted to on the pro level when the competition got bigger, stronger, and more intense?
Yeah, that was something that I definitely kind of grew into. I didn't play like I do now when I was in my early 20s even. Yeah, I would say a coach I had at USTA kind of changed my game style in the sense like using my speed to my advantage, to take time away, to take the ball early and make the court smaller for my opponent, and yeah, just make it more difficult for her. And that was definitely a game changer for me. Super effective, very compatible with my stature, and yeah.
Just had to adapt, and I understand that. It's tough to play, especially with the newer generation. It seems like they're just getting bigger and stronger.
Yeah.
But that fighting aspect of it, I mean, everybody says from what I've can take in that they want to be in the thick of it, that they want to battle. But, you know, it's tough when you're down a set in a break to keep in it, keep engaged physically. When you're playing these matches, specifically, you know, recently, like Kenin, that win, Coco Gauff, the Kovacic match, which I mentioned, how do you keep your eye on the next point versus looking at the scoreboard and maybe, you know, mentally maybe checking out like some players would to the next event?
Yeah. So actually for both of those matches, like I said, like I had to change my game plan. And when I played Kenin, I was kind of just playing her game, hitting everything hard and flat. And then I kind of realized that she didn't like heavy high balls, which like takes me back to like 12 juniors. But honestly, like I'll find a way to win, you know, if I need to. So that's what I did. And points were super long. And so, yeah, like I said, just like learning to get really creative and to try and think out there, because I feel like at this level, like the gap between those who are top 100 and top 20, it's like so small. So if you can just like try and get under their skin and find what they don't like, I think that's very effective. And also just staying centered within yourself and doing a good job of like managing your emotions, not wasting energy on other things. And yeah, just playing within yourself.
Laura Thornton-Davis here on Tennis Channel Inside In. Your career development, Lauren, you started to progress up the ranks, and like a lot of players, ran into some obstacles, there were injuries, there were setbacks. A couple of years ago, it was publicly noted that you took a 6-week sabbatical and thought about maybe walking away or just taking an extended break. What was going through your thought process then, and how did you come back to peace with playing tennis and, you know, obviously succeeding a year later, getting to your highest ranking ever?
Yeah, it's so funny that you say that, because like I feel like I'm a totally different person now. So I think that was like maybe 3 years ago or whenever it was. But at the time I was so burnt out. I didn't have much of a balance between like tennis and other things, other hobbies that I had in my life. And I was training like 4 hours a day, doing way too much fitness, and I was just sick of it, you know? And so I didn't feel like I had much of a say in my career either. And so after that year, I made some big changes, and like maybe got a new coach, or starting making more personal, empowering decisions, like of what I actually wanted to do and how I wanted to play, and the tournaments that I wanted to play. But yeah, now like I've never enjoyed or loved tennis more than I do now. I enjoy the competition and the grit of it all. And the travel is definitely difficult, but once you get there, it's fine. And winning tournaments and winning matches, it definitely makes it all worth it. So it's funny to look back and think that that's where I was back then.
Growing as a person, I mean, I totally get that, especially someone like yourself that had already been 5-6 years in the game, and suddenly it's, you know, the years adding up, the practice is adding up. You mentioned travel.
Yeah.
And I know now is a different time and we're starting to kind of get back to normal, but do you have certain do's and don'ts, or like a pet peeve of travel that that gets on your, something that gets on your nerves with what you have to do with the life as a pro tennis player?
Um, hmm. Honestly, like I'm not a fan of flying. So flying in general is
That's
like a
tough one
pet peeve for me.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
Yeah, it's funny. Like really don't like flying, but I basically do it for a living. But yeah, it's fine. It takes me away from home. And I mean, it's giving me good clarity for like as to what I want after tennis. Like I want stability and I want a family, and I really don't want to travel at all. So it's definitely given me some clarity in that sense. But I know that I only have probably 5-6 more years to play, or however long I want to play. And so I'm just going to make the most of it, suck it up, and get on that plane. So
I would think packing would be one too, you know,
oh my gosh, packing. Yes, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Yes. So I basically live out of my suitcase. Like I haven't unpacked my suitcase from Mexico, which was like over a month ago. So that goes to show.
I want to do some laundry at some point.
Well, I did laundry, luckily,
okay.
But I have like 3 different suitcases that I take with me. So like I switch them out, you know, crazy.
The that is pretty crazy. The 2021 season that started. I mean, obviously there's setbacks with what went on in Australia and just constant bubbles and obviously Charleston was nice because there was two events and you were able to settle in a little bit. But what's that experience been like playing tennis in these bubbles in this environment where you're not really given the freedom that you normally would have?
Yeah, I have actually found that to be so incredibly difficult. Um, yeah, the I was a part of the hard quarantine in Melbourne, so we weren't able to leave our hotel rooms or
Mm-hmm.
even like there was no windows to open either for 2 straight weeks. So that was really, really tough and not the best way to start the year out, but tried to make the most of it, was got some things done during that time. Um, but yeah, it's been really hard with these bubbles. Like we have all of this stress of of competing and then now having to defend points and now we don't really have an outlet, like
Right.
I really, really enjoy walking around the city, sightseeing, going to different restaurants, trying different food and just doing this with my friends and stuff. And not to have this outlet has been, it's really kind of taken a toll on me. So, and a lot of other players as I've spoken to, but it's definitely really, really tough.
I can only imagine, especially 14 days where you're not really given, sunlight in a way, just to
Yeah.
be demonstrating the mental fortitude that pro athletes and pro tennis players have to have. I would also imagine a challenge being that you're open about being gluten free, being very into fitness and your new.
Mm-hmm.
That can't be
Yeah.
it can't be easy in general, let alone during a pandemic when you're in a bubble and can't really
Mm-hmm.
go out and shop for yourself.
Yeah. So it actually used to be a lot harder than it is now. Places have come a long way in the past, I guess, 10 years. Even in Europe, I don't have too much trouble. France is really tough. They don't have like hardly any gluten-free options, but um, Italy is just like so on it with the gluten-free stuff, and the stuff tastes so good too. So I definitely gain a couple pounds when I go there. But in the States, it's very very easy to abide by being gluten-free. So
Is that something you made on your own? Because I did some research here, and I got your
did
dad
your
as
research.
well. And, your dad's kind of been leading in the crusade against like bad diet habits and whatnot
Mhm.
too. And was that something you made on your own? And have you noticed a difference on the court as you play and as you feel a little better?
Yeah, so I did I was like influenced by my dad to kind of pick up this lifestyle. He had been kind of not badgering me, but like definitely telling me to follow this for years. And I wasn't listening. And then I did finally try it for myself. And I feel uh, a lot better. It, when I eat wheat or gluten, I feel I get headaches and I get some bloating and stuff. And so just these little things make a big difference for me. Um, so yeah, this is something that I'll live by probably for the rest of my life. And I don't find it like restricting at all with all the options they have out there now. So
Well, I came across the info that your dad kind of ghost wrote the book for Novak Djokovic about his lifestyle and helped him.
yeah,
Now, that's probably like the most extreme case of a diet and following it.
right, right.
That might be tough, but I think you're on
Mm-hmm.
track with your plan there.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely don't have any sort of allergy to gluten or wheat or whatever, but I have somewhat of an intolerance. I'm
Okay.
sure I get that from my dad. So
Lauren, as we kind of look back at your career and some of the moments that have defined you, a lot of people will circle on that Australian Open match against Simona Halep in 2018. 15
yeah.
13 in the third set, which there's no real blueprint for how to even train for a match like that. Where other than a Grand Slam is that going to happen? But
Mm-hmm.
you're in the moment when you're deep into the third set and the conditions are muggy, body's starting to break down, toenails start to fall off. What are you thinking in that moment? Are you appreciating it that in a stage this big and playing great tennis against the world number one, or are you able to not just fully comprehend the moment at hand?
Yeah, so it's funny because I think that was actually around the time when I took some time off from tennis, shortly after that match. But um, I really thoroughly enjoyed playing that match. Like obviously on Rod Laver, playing against the world number one at the time, and I remember walking in the third set like to my towel and just smiling to myself because I'm like, I really enjoy this. But I was so like in the moment, I wasn't exactly aware of like what a big and impact that would have, like that match would have on people. I got like thousands of messages afterward, saying something like, "Oh, I never thought I'd be interested in tennis, but I watched this match and now I'm just a huge fan of yours." And and like receiving messages like that are what have really kept me going when I wanted to give up in tennis. So so yeah, hopefully I have a lot more matches like that. Mm-hmm.
That was a case for a lot of people, especially in the Cleveland area, that were just like,
Aw,
oh,
so
girl
nice.
is making a play here. The result didn't go your way. Halep is a tremendous player, obviously, won majors. No shame in losing to her. But after the match ended, were you let down? Were you able to see the positives in what had just happened? How was your mindset after the match?
Yeah, shortly after, I was definitely disappointed. Um, but after talking to my coach and kind of reflecting on the match itself and reading all those messages, like I was really proud and happy, and had a lot of positives to take away from the match. So yeah, it was really all good things.
Looking at that and looking at that opportunity, I can't help but look at the next year's Wimbledon, 2019, where talk about the extremes, right? You lose in qualifying, you think you're not going to make the tournament. Suddenly a spot opens up. You're playing the defending champion, Angelique Kerber, and then unbeknownst to many, you beat her and have to go into the whirlwind. I just can't imagine another sport where you go from not even thinking you're going to be in the event to get ready
Yeah.
playing a former champion. And how are you able to adapt to get ready to play and then ultimately bring your best game onto the court?
Yeah, that's the beauty of tennis. At times it feels very unforgiving, but in reality, it's a very forgiving sport. There's another point, another set, another tournament, So, but yeah, I lost last round of qualies, and honestly, like my intuition, I really believed that I would get in as lucky loser. I remember feeling that like firmly. And so I wasn't too surprised when I got in. But yeah, I was super excited. My coach and I were really, really happy, and got a couple really good matches under my belt and one of the best wins of my career.
Imagine the lucky loser process. Like, I would imagine it'd be like you're waiting around. You might be outside the training area, like, oh, I don't know, maybe this person's going to drop out, or I
Yeah.
don't know if you're getting to the point of like approaching players and being like, hey, maybe you shouldn't play this. I think you can rest up.
Yeah. Yeah, I did say I wasn't too surprised, but honestly, looking back, I was kind of stressed. I lost that day, but then actually that evening, I found out that I got lucky loser. So it wasn't like I didn't have to wait a long time, luckily. Otherwise, I would have been stressing. But yeah.
Getting back to that level and getting back to those moments where you play Halep at Rod Laver, packed house, people are cheering for you, you beat Kerber at Wimbledon. How much does it mean to you to try to get back to that level and the willingness to put the time in away from matches, away from the public eye?
Yeah, that's definitely the goal. To play on center courts and to play top players consistently. That's definitely what I'm working towards and what I'm trying to, I guess, embody in my game and in the way I carry myself, the way I hold myself. Um, but yeah, I feel like a lot of it is mental, and so it's just a matter of, um, yeah, kind of just stepping into that.
Still chatting with Lauren Davis on Tennis Channel Inside In. More to discuss with you, Lauren, and I keep coming back to that fighting spirit and the ability to battle out there and to play well and play tough when your best game isn't there. Where does that come from for you? Is that something ingrained in you? Do you look at inspiration at other players, your parents, your family? Where does that fighting spirit come from?
Yeah, I've been a fighter ever since I was young. um, my brother and I are 2 years apart, and we used to fight all the time, and I used to beat him up at times, and so that probably helped, like in the development. But yeah, I've always fought for and scraped and fought for everything that I have. Yeah, I know that anything good and worthwhile takes hard work. And when I played soccer when I was young, I was a fighter and always fought for the ball. And I would say my grandma is definitely a fighter as well. Like she's got that feisty spirit.
Okay.
And so I think I probably picked some of that up from her as well.
Definitely not one to back down from confrontation, though. Luckily, tennis, there's not going to be as many confrontations as some of the others.
Yeah, exactly. Except when you have a ball at the top of the net and you're not sure whether to go to the side or peg her or what.
That sibling rivalry, I think it breeds a lot of just great level athletes as well.
I think so too. Yeah.
You mentioned, being from Northeast Ohio as well. I'm sure that it comes there as well.
Yes, exactly.
Some other moments in your career I wanted to mention. You've gotten the opportunity to play in several Fed Cup ties. What's that experience been like? I mean, not just playing with players in your era, but you've got to play with the Williams sisters, among others, and just a lot of legendary players that you've been able to play alongside and be teammates with. What have those Fed Cup experiences been like?
Yeah, Fed Cup is one of my favorite things to do because it's just so different. We're part of a team and having the team camaraderie and getting to know maybe some of your fellow Americans that you wouldn't have really known before. Having played with Serena and Venus was definitely super cool. I assume they would be retiring fairly soon, so I probably wouldn't get that opportunity again, but you never know. I'm not going to say that. Okay. But yeah, it was really exciting, and they're really cool, good people. And so just to get to know them behind the scenes was a great experience for me.
That's good to hear that they are good people. And I should also inquire, it's been a couple years now, but have you recovered from the clip of you almost choking on a wasabi pea?
Oh my God, I forgot about that. Oh my gosh. Yes, I've recovered, but I do not eat wasabi peas anymore. I forgot about that video. That was hilarious.
Big moments, and suddenly there's a player on the Fed Cup team choking. So
too funny. Stop the match. Call the ambulance.
we thought we were going to have to. We thought that was going to be the end of the Fed Cup. But no, it's good to know that you've had fun doing that. And speaking of having fun, you're kind of active on social media, and one of the first things that jumps out at me is you have a lot of photos on there of you and tall people. So
I do.
A lot of photos with you and Opelka, Kevin Anderson, just a lot of tall
John Isner.
So is that the strategy? Is that the marketing plan? Just we're gonna, I know you brand yourself as fun size, but is that the plan to always put yourself out there with just abnormally large people?
Yeah, I think it's so funny. Like I get a kick out of it because like they're some of the tallest players on the men's tour, and I'm one of the shortest on the women's tour. So the gap is just insane. And honestly, I'd love to play doubles with one of them someday. I was gonna ask Riley to see if he wanted to play at US Open last year, but I was told that he doesn't really play much doubles. So I was like, dang it. Maybe I'll ask John or something next year. We'll see.
We need it just for doing well and then the trophy ceremony, because that's what
Yes, that would be amazing.
I don't know how we would do that. I don't know if it would fit into the broadcast standards.
Yeah, that photo would go viral for sure.
You've also, I don't know if it's the Florida in you or just the personality, but you've kind of embraced the beach life. It's surfing, it's a lot of water sports and water activities. That always been a passion of yours, or did you just fall in love with it when you moved to Florida?
Yeah, I definitely have fallen in love with it. Not even when I moved here, just probably about 3 years ago. I actually live across from the beach, which is super, super nice. So I just walk over there every day and walk the beach. And I love to paddleboard. I used to love to surf. I haven't surfed in about a year, but I got to get out there again. But yeah, I love to do anything outdoors, get some fresh air, and really good not only physically to like do fitness on the beach, but also mentally being outdoors. And so I really enjoy it.
It's a good hobby to have. It promotes activity. I think piano was another hobby of yours as well, if I have that right. Do you still play?
Oh.
Are you a classic?
Piano?
Yeah.
So I played when I was a kid, and I attempted to take it back up probably about 4 years ago, but it lasted only about 6 months because obviously with the travel, it was really difficult. And like by the time I would come back, I would forget what I learned from before. So I think that I'll save that for after my career.
Probably smart. It takes a lot of work, and it might be tough.
Yeah.
To play. A couple more things, Lauren, before we wrap this up. You mentioned some changes in your professional life and your career. What value has working with your coach, Eddie Elliott, made to your game on the court, and how tactically has he improved the way you play and the way you try to attack the other opponent out there?
Yeah, he's brought a ton of value to my career. We're very close friends as well, and so having that aspect of it for me, that support, that encouragement is just huge. And having someone on the sidelines who you know is like genuinely for you, because obviously a lot of people aren't like your opponent and their coaches and whatever. So having that is super important. Yeah, he's taught me to really just allow my light to shine, in the sense that I'm very athletic. So to just allow like my athleticism to take over, rather than allow like my analytical mind to kind of get involved, but just to allow like my senses and stuff to kick in. And because I found that's definitely where I'm at my best.
Well, it's also interesting because I feel like you need a balance in that, not just you specifically, but tennis players in general, whether they're more analytical or more just, I'm going to feel it out there. It's good to have that other perspective to kind of ring you away.
Yeah. So it's definitely struggle getting your analytical mind out of the way. I find that when I don't listen to my mind and all my thoughts out there so much, like the deepest, truest part of me like comes out, and that's when I can really be my best self out on the court. But yeah, there's like a million thoughts going out there, and then those entangle with the emotions you're feeling. It's pretty cool to try and, I guess, overcome that. And but it's definitely difficult. Yeah. So
Lauren, this has been a blast. I do want to ask you, going forward, what types of goals you have for the year, the events and the schedule coming up. We're approaching the clay court season. We're in the clay court season, the abbreviated grass season, and still some opportunities to make a move. I know the rankings are a little weird right now, but what goals do you have, and what's your plan going forward for 2021 and beyond?
Yeah, so I head to Europe next week, and I'm really, really excited. Had a good start in Charleston, got a couple of good wins under my belt, and I'm feeling confident, like in the way that I'm playing, and I've never felt so confident playing on clay than I do now. So I'm really excited to tackle it head on. I would love to make the quarters of a slam or even better. And I would love to be top 30 by the end of the year. So that's definitely what I'm gonna shoot for. New heights.
That's a realistic goal for sure. Lauren Davis, pleasure talking to you on Tennis Channel Inside In. I do have one last thing. Next time you're in Ohio, if you're training at a club, maybe like Kirtland, for example.
Yeah, Kirtland.
If there is, several old gentlemen, playing tennis next to you, you might be able to say hello to my father. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, that's awesome.
Back in December,
yeah.
I think it was. So,
okay.
Old 60-plus-year-old rec league game. I didn't want to embarrass myself in front of Lauren Davis. That.
That's so cute. Oh, yeah. Tell him to say hi to me. I would love that. I do hit at Kirtland sometimes. So, yeah, good old Cleveland.
Well, seriously, though, Lauren, this was a blast. And I know, just speaking from myself and my perspective, there's a lot of people in that area that are rooting for you. There's not that many pro tennis players that come out of that region of the country. So you have a lot of support there. So I just wish you the best, and keep it up. And you have a lot of people rooting for you.
Yeah, it means a lot. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. This was fun.